Dead by Daylight just dropped a massive update, and I printed out the community's favorite parts. People are freaking out because this update has like no new content. The anti-tunneling and slugging changes that they've been working on for months aren't going live. The pallet density changes that they made earlier in the year are already getting walked back. And overall, it just feels like Dead by Daylight has spent a ton of time to accomplish very little. But I'm here to tell you, don't hit the panic button just yet. We didn't get a licensed chapter, sure, but there's some brand new features that make the game a whole heck of a lot better. The main reason people are pissed is that Behavior is spending all their time on features that aren't even making it into the live game. And for that reason, they say the game is dying. But sometimes I script entire videos and scrap them. Does that mean my channel is dying? Today, we're going to break down what this update did and what it didn't, and why this might not be as bad as people think. But now it's time to stay in the loop. Welcome back to In the Loop, your #1 source for Dead by Daylight news, and we're gonna go over the most recent update. You guys know I hate those videos that just go over the update line by line. I'm gonna summarize it for you in 5 points. You can now change the color of your scratch marks. All teammates will now be able to see that anti-camp meter when you're on hook. The skull merchant was buffed. Pallets were reduced on some maps, and there was a lot of general bug fixes. So yeah, that's basically all we got. And I'll admit, there's really not a lot of meat on the bone. Like, there's not a lot of new content, but overall I think the scratch marks was a huge win. The skull merchant buff, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think that was pretty cool. And if I were to have to rate it, I'd maybe give it like a 7 out of 13, and that's over 50%. So okay, I mean, there's some good things in here, but before we talk about all the features, we first have to announce this week's Voice of the Fog. If you guys aren't aware, every week we select a comment from last week's episode of In the Loop and highlight it as this week's Voice of the Fog. This week's winner was Renman56, who asks, if all killers just refused to play and just stood around and watched gens pop, what would happen? Well, Renman, you basically just summarized every single game I have as killer. Make sure to comment if you want to be next week's Voice of the Fog, but let's talk about these tunneling and slugging changes that didn't get brought into the game. So for those who didn't play the PTB, Dead by Daylight basically tried again to implement the elusive status effect, which was a new status effect they created. Basically made you quiet and not have scratch marks and not have pools of blood. They were giving survivors endurance again. They were giving them basically a lot of benefits, but because they didn't really change anything on the killer side of things, people were outraged. So it is kind of weird because some people are very excited that those tunneling changes didn't make it into the game, but at the same time, they're upset that Dead by Daylight's spending all this time creating these changes just to not go through with it. I think I can speak for everyone when I say, like, they wish the time was better spent, but here's what I'll say. I do believe that these tunneling changes will eventually make it to the live game. I know we've now had 2 PTBs where they didn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the next big update, these tunneling changes were in the game to a lower degree. So I don't think it's a complete waste of time, but I do think Behavior has realized from community feedback that these initial changes are just way too drastic. I mean, Behavior seems really hell-bent on removing tunneling and slugging, and I think we can all admit it can be a terrible experience for survivors, but sometimes, again, it is essential. So let me know where you guys stand. Are you guys happy the changes didn't go through? Are you pissed the changes didn't go through? Are you pissed that Behavior spent all this time working on these changes? And would you have rather have just had the November licensed chapter? And let me know what you think about this week's Hooked Highlight. Every week we select a clip from the Discord to highlight as this week's Hooked Highlight, and this week's winner is Mac E Cheese, who's going up against a Wraith who's having a very bad day. This Wraith misses not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 total times. I know he's probably about ready to throw his controller through the wall, and I know Mac's excited to be this week's Hooked Highlight. So with this update, we also got some changes to Killer. In my last video, I talked about a lot of the changes that Skull Merchant was getting. A lot of her add-ons are now base kit. It seems like she's a fair bit better. She's not overpowered or anything, but definitely some improvement. Pinhead, a lot of people were worried about Pinhead. There was some changes with endurance and how Pinhead interacted with survivors with endurance. It was a heavy nerf to to Pinhead in the PTB, but a lot of those changes have been reverted. There's only one add-on that they basically kept the changes for. And finally, Myers, they made a change with his camera with the slaughtering strike, which makes it just a little easier to move. So overall, I would say probably 3 positive changes for the killers. I know Pinhead was the main one people were worried about. He has not been nerfed into oblivion, so you can keep on playing Pinhead without worry. And maybe you can play Pinhead in our Discord tournaments. Real quick, guys, I'm gonna take like 15 seconds to plug our Discord. The Straz community has been holding like weekly tournaments. Think of it like Dead by Daylight comp league, but like intramural. So instead of like LeBron, you got like a 40-year-old with knee braces playing. It's a lot of fun. It's not super serious. So if you want to join the Discord, we would love to have you. We would love to see you participate in some of these tournaments. We're holding them like bi-weekly. It might be a lot harder to play Survivor now because of the pallet reduction that they did in this update. So it was kind of called out after they did the pallet density changes, how powerful some maps were. Now Dead by Daylight's kind of walking back some of the changes they made during the pallet density update. Macmillan Estate, Asylum, the Red Forest, Yamaoka Estate, Haddonfield, and Mount Ormond are all getting reduced pallets, which is probably good because like Haddonfield, survivors could just like pre-drop pallets now, and it got kind of crazy. One thing I'll say, it's kind of early to make a complete judgment, but a lot of people have reported that like pallets are a little too scarce now. Like it seems like they went from one extreme to the other. So yeah, jump into those maps, run around a bit, let me know what you guys think. I'm just thankful, like I almost completely lost my mind the other day playing a game as Freddy, because like if you're not like an S tier killer, like this pallet change was like an absolute nightmare. So yeah, those were like the big talking points. Again, there really wasn't a lot of meat on the bone, and I know that's why people were upset, but I'm not gonna lie, we were kind of spoiled with content for a while. 3 months without a new killer is not the end of the world. They did end up fixing a ton of bugs. I'm not gonna go over all of them, and the crazy thing is some of these bugs actually aren't fixed right now. There's like a lot circulating on Twitter where people are testing out bugs that they said were fixed and they're still not fixed. But maybe during this segment I'll just have like a running list of bugs that apparently are getting fixed. For our final segment, we are spinning the wheel of adepts. This time we pulled Oni, who honestly, since switching over to mouse and keyboard, is a pretty sick killer. Give me this. We got Willy Wonka here. All right, Willy. Didn't gain as much distance as I'm sure you would wanted to. All right, Willy Wonka's down. She's a runner. She's a track star. Oh! No way. Is this another flashlight? I'm so sick of Willy Wonka, dude. I am so sick. The bot's going crazy on generators. I know he is. Come on! Well, well, well. Oni Adept on my first match. Getting Oni's Adept took me all of 13 minutes, and I even got some endgame salt. It's always crazy getting Adepts on my first try, but if you want to see something even more crazy, check out this video where I faked a tweet and it went absolutely viral. You can watch that video right here.